So hi again. I hope you were able to grab a bite and meet some fellow blockchain geeks as we are heated for the next block of exciting talks. Our next guest is the COO of Eternity and will address the hot topic of governance in the context of blockchain. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Emin Mahrt.
Thank you. Hello everyone. The first half of the conference is over and you have heard about some stuff about Eternity already and also some of our features. Just for the start, we are building infrastructure and a blockchain protocol for decentralized apps. The last talk by our apps team showed you many of the challenges we face there. And our approach with Eternity is that we want to have a very well-written software and infrastructure that you can that comes shipped at the very beginning with some built-in features that we think are important to make blockchain protocol future-proof. With future-proof, I mean, why haven't we got up and actually developed a new blockchain protocol? The reason for this is because we have seen flaws and problems in existing ones, and we wanted to improve and we want to make that better. And in order to make that better, we identified some very interesting features, and some of them were covered already in previous talks, and I want to talk about maybe the most important topic to be around also in 10-15 years, which is governance. And all of those features which are like in our current implementation are there because we think they are necessary in order to compete and in order to provide infrastructure that will be widely used and publicly adopted. And also because Eternity is a community-funded project, we should at least listen to our community, and we might not need to follow their will, but at least we should listen to their will. And there we start with governance. So usually coming to a consensus or finding consensus is happening in very small groups. Like when you look at the human history, of course we had like democratic votes and many people joined that, but often at the end there was like a room with a few people, 5, 10 people who discussed and came to a conclusion, and it was very, very small groups. Even today, if you look at most of the politics, I think we all agree that this is not happening with like millions of people, but this is maybe just kickstarted. And when we go to vote today, we look at 3 things. We want to have our vote actually secret. We want to be sure that it is counted, so that nobody took my vote and throw it away. And we also just want that only people allowed to vote can actually vote, and not out of thin air millions of votes are getting created. And but generally speaking, voting is, if you ask me, more like a question of, hey, what do you think about this, or what do you think about that? But like afterwards enforcing it is really hard. And we can see this in a simple example of, let's say, the Brexit. So this was the voting from the Brexit. It was 51.9% to 48.1%. So is this now like a strong will and decision, or does this actually show that the voters had no clue what they are actually doing? Because if I as a person have like a 51.9 versus a 48.1 decision, I'm actually clueless. I'm like, okay, I don't know the right answer or where to go. And so putting just everything to vote is also not the solution. It should actually be the solution about all collaborative approaches fail. So after you have sitting down and discussed and try to find, try to come to an agreement. And when you look at projects all over the world, which are also open source and which have like huge communities, like WordPress or Linux or even Elixir, which many of you use, then you will quickly recognize that there are often people within those open source communities which kind of have a last word and which are leading the community. It's again, often you can break it down to a very few people who are enforcing changes in that stuff. Python is also such a thing where you have like actually a very, very nice discussion culture, but you also have some like very well-known people from the Python scene, and at the end, if they say, okay, let's stop this discussion, we are going this way, this is actually happening today, and this is a standard way of handling open source projects. But now we are in a decentralized open system. And so I think everybody here understands the basic how blockchain works. But again, we write a piece of software. You can download this piece of software, install it on your computer. And this will hopefully happen with hundreds of thousands of computers all over the world. And the moment we want to change something, everybody has to update the software. And we cannot force them to do this. We can only ask them to do this. It's when you want to go like in the physical world, like a little bit down, you could compare it with putting a CD into a store before the time of the internet, and you go and buy that CD. And if you want to update whatever you have there, like a new version of Word, Microsoft Office Word, you had to go to the store again, buy a new CD, and install the update. There was no way for Microsoft before the internet to update your Word installation on your computer. So, do we have the same problems now? Do we have to provide a system where we can ensure that only eligible voters can vote? Should we follow some principles like one person, one vote, or should we do it more like in a company where it's kind of decided by shares, who holds most of the shares has most power? And when you think about blockchain, then you say, okay, who are actually the participants who are going to like have some kind of impact if something changes in the project? And in our cases are miners, it's nodes, users, and maybe in the future also smart contracts, because smart contracts can be autonomous, just running and yeah, exist. Controlled by no one. And this is of course a huge challenge, and also all those different participants also have different incentives. I will come to this a little bit later. Again, when we look at blockchain, we have different wordings again. One is a proof of stake, where I basically take all the balance I own in tokens and stake them to one direction, and is basically my pointer where I say, look, I have 100 tokens and I put all my 100 tokens of no, we should not update or we should not integrate this or that feature. But there are also other ways to actually enforce stuff. So if you run a mining node, you could just change the settings in your node, and by that, if you are powerful enough, just force, like it's like an enforced, direct enforced voting. This is also happening already in different projects, and we have to be aware of. And if we do this, if we go not by one person, one vote, but actually give it to the people who already own lots of stake or lots of mining power, like a big portion of the network, don't we give them even more power than they already have? This is a very common and legit question. And mostly the answer to this is, okay, if you have a huge stake, let it be a lot of tokens or if you run a big part of the infrastructure by mining, it's very important for you that this thing is going well. So you are interested in the well-being of the protocol. This is one of the key arguments why we think that people who own a lot of shares won't use them to destroy or harm the network in a negative way. But then we come to a different problem again, because when we have different stakeholders, let's say users and miners, they might have completely different incentives. So maybe the user wants to have zero-fee transactions, but the miner and the one who is actually securing the network and running the network wants to earn tokens. So he wants to have a high fee for the transactions. So they are both participants, and their incentives are not aligned in this vote, and they will maybe even vote against each other if we would put up something like this for a vote. And then there are new concepts around which we call proof of importance. It's maybe someone who mathematically or showed that he is that he holds, for example, a lot of eternity tokens since 2 years and haven't moved them, and he's very interested. There are different blockchain projects in the world that are experimenting with those kind of governance systems, this is developing quickly. And again, when we're going and looking that we are a highly technical product, then maybe we run into a situation where we have super nerdy experts, 3, 4 high qualified experts that decide something or want something to move, but all the users don't understand or don't want to understand and completely disagree with this expert knowledge. And let's say we have something up for a vote, so we found something that is worth voting about, then we have to take care about propaganda. And propaganda, we just had this in a very horrible thing in India just 2 weeks ago, where people sending around short videos via WhatsApp how people on motorbikes hijack children. And what happened is that since this is spreading like wildfire, which is actually an advertising spot for, hey, take care of your children, I don't know, already 10, 20, 30 people have been murdered by mobs somewhere in villages because they kind of got brainwashed by those WhatsApp videos they got sent. So when you put something up in a decentralized way for a vote or a question, you always have to be aware that there are tons and tons of people joining the conversation and screaming around, spreading fake information and so on and so on. And this is really a big problem and hard to handle. I don't know how to handle. And what we actually want is that often when you put something to a vote, and we see this in politics a lot, they end up in some kind of a rival thing. It's like me against you. I have a different opinion. It really becomes a rival matter, and it's not so much about the actual question anymore. And this also often happens because the different parties, they don't even really 100% understand what they're actually voting about. So you would need, if you want to have a really good discussion, everyone who's participating in the voting would need to learn a lot about the thing that's up for a vote. And I mean, when you look at Brexit, maybe the people who were voting there, many of them have until today no clue about potential consequences or what this why they did it, why they said yes or no. And for us, when we want to develop something in the future, one big challenge will be to explain the people who are participating in the vote what they are actually voting about. For sure, a project like ours will also always have a technical advisory board, especially when it goes to like deeply technical things. We already have this. We have a lot of friends. We know a lot of professional projects and people, and we will maybe ask them to prepare a solution, and then we could ask for consent. We could ask, hey, is there something you see that is like that you really, really don't want, and if it's like that, then please explain it to us, rather than putting some random stuff up for a vote which is like unprepared and not there yet. And also an inclusive approach is something we have already discussed. So if it really comes to a split where we cannot find consensus, where we are 50-50 and we don't know what's going on, also a technical solution could be that operating nodes could handle two different versions of the protocol or make it very easy to go from one to another. This is, again, something which is a little bit more technical, but it's possible. It's a way to go more in an inclusive approach. And overall, it's always better to solve things together than against each other. So this is definitely something we want to reach here. And also for you, if it comes to a decision, it is in the world of blockchain important that you as a user can that it's not so difficult and easy for you to like move maybe from one version to another, or abandon things that we have all agreed with that we don't need it or don't want it anymore. And the worst thing that can happen while we vote is that we end up with two versions, for example, from eternity. And especially at the beginning, in the first years, this could hurt, or I think this would hurt every project a lot, because you might start to fight about the name, about the ticker on the exchanges. You have wallet software, and a user who uses this wallet software is not sure anymore if she or he is using the one or the other infrastructure. So this is something that should hopefully be prevented by putting stuff to vote and into open community discussion. And what can also help is, from the beginning, what we don't have, but maybe it has to be written, is some kind of a constitution that says there are a few things that we just don't put up for a vote, or we try to avoid to put it up for a vote. Maybe one thing is how many bitcoins will ever exist could be like part of such a constitution. What is the conclusion of all those problems and questions I have just talked about? The conclusion for us is we have decided to have on our protocol level a simple way to signal what you think is right or wrong. With signal, I mean is we are not nobody gets forced to do anything, but we want to include everyone to join and show in which direction they think we should go when we have something up for a vote. And we do this with something we call a delegated weighted voting. So weighted, or signaling, sorry. And weighted is pretty simple. If you own more coins, then you'll have more weight, and you can push the decision into a direction. And delegation is very important, because maybe you are part of the community and you own a part of or you have coins, but you don't really want to do the decision. You trust Emil a lot with the apps development, so you could delegate your votes to him as long as he does a good job. And when you think he does not do a good job anymore, you can take away this voting power again and give it to someone else. By this, we have some kind of a liquid democracy system built into Eternity on the protocol layer. And the importance to have this on the protocol layer is that we hope that other projects will also adapt and use this functionality. And if more projects use it, and we will hopefully also get more contributions in improving, in improving this. So we start very simple, and with delegation and weighted voting, and we are aware that we have to have very well written proposals about what we want to change or update. But also we are very much aware that not everybody wants or can participate in, let's say, technical issues, so they can delegate their vote. And one thing is very, very clear, and this is not a highly technical problem. It's rather simple for us compared to all the things we have built in the Eternity protocol. It is a human problem, and we trying to translate some aspects of this into code so we can better, as humans, solve those problems together. I want to give acknowledgement to Sascha Hanse. He has written a lot of our specifications, and especially the part about governance is not a technical document, but actually something which is really nice to read, and and it is also getting updated all the time. And so if you want to read a little bit more about this and our approaches, just go here. And of course, please, if you have ideas or if you see problems, if you want to try out the governance protocol for your own applications, go into the forum and tell us how we can help you. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed this little dive into governance on open source projects. And if you have any more questions, I'm here now on stage and also later at the conference. How does what work? So you have seen already what we have to provide, of course, is not only a protocol, which is super nerdy and code somewhere in the full node implementation, but we also have to provide interfaces. You have seen screenshots from the interfaces, from the interface concept in the previous talk, and when Eternity launches, there will also be you can use this and participate. And on protocol level, if you are interested in the technical, how it's implemented, it's also inside this document, well documented. I hope this answers the question. So it will be an interface, and of course there will be a technical documentation too. An app and a technical documentation. Anything else? Okay, not now, but I'm here. Come to me if you have questions.